Today on Locked On Canadiens, Montreal Canadiens have waived Sammy Blais. There's a reason for it. We don't know what it is yet, but we have some ideas.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. And for making us here at Locked On, the #1 sports podcast network. We do really love saying that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @Maybe It's Ian. I am joined by Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and neither of us were surprisingly placed on waivers today. That was just Sammy Blais.
Yes.
How are we doing? It's an off day. Really, the last time we can look forward to a Canadiens game in the reasonable future.
Yes.
I'm not ready for them to leave just yet.
But I am more than ready for the Olympics. I'm so excited. And also, listeners, we will be very Olympics focused. Obviously, we'll talk about the Canadiens. We will have guests and things like that as well over the next couple of weeks. But we'll definitely be covering Team Canada and any other interesting things that happen. But we're not going away on the Olympic break. We will definitely be here every day for you guys, and we hope you'll join us. All right. Real quick, I am not surprised by the timing of this. I think what Kent Hughes did was very clever.
Yeah.
But I know we got to do the rundown too and everything. So let's get into that.
Yeah, look, so we'll talk about the news of Sammy Blais being placed on waivers. We think the timing of it's very convenient for the Canadiens, potentially. We'll see how this works out, but there's some thought as to why they made this move and also why they made it at the time they did. We want to talk about what Kent Hughes might be up to. He's been quiet for a little bit now. There's always some rumblings going on. Montreal's name is constantly being thrown around in some of these rumors. And then I want to just kind of pick on some of the general managers in the league that the Canadiens should be calling every day, even if there's not a player that you think they should be interested in, just because these general managers might just give you these players for a song and a dance. But let's start with Sammy Blais. Hasn't played in a little bit with the Canadiens getting healthier up front. He goes on waivers on Tuesday at 2 p.m. The timing of that is convenient. And the reason it's convenient is because he needs to be claimed by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, today as you're listening to this. And because Wednesday is also the roster freeze day, essentially any team grabbing Blais would need to already have a roster spot available or be working on getting one available over the next 24 hours. So with that in mind, it seems like a very safe bargain for the Canadiens. This is probably the only safe time remaining this season where they'd be able to waive him and not expect somebody to claim him. It's still a risk. There's obviously risk involved here because I think Sammy Blais is still an effective fourth line player. And if they should need him in the playoffs, I think he could be an effective player for them. But have I summed that up? This makes sense from the, trying to manipulate the NHL calendar in your favor.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Laval needs bodies and he needs to play. Second, this is the time to do it because any other time you're not competing with 32 other teams that are also putting people on waivers or trying to figure out who goes where before the roster freeze. So I think this is the perfect time to do it. I think it's very smart by the Montreal Canadiens. However, that does not guarantee he's not going to get picked up.
Yeah, for sure. And so look, as I alluded to off the top, there are reasons for this to be done. We don't know which one of them is true yet. We'll start with one that I think was floated by Patrik Laine at RDS earlier, which is that, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for Patrik Laine to get back in the lineup. It would make sense. He's traveling with the team. They're headed to Winnipeg to play the team that drafted him. It would make sense for Patty to make his return. However, I think it was Eric Engels who threw cold water on that, said he wouldn't expect Laine to make his return. In which case, before we move on to any of the other options, what are they waiting on? I don't know. I think there were some thoughts that the Canadiens medical staff hasn't completely cleared Laine yet, even though he's been practicing with the team in a contact sweater, I believe. So I'm sort of confused as to what's going on there. Is he being Robida Islanded?
I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that they might want to move him and they don't want him to get injured because he is pretty injury prone. It's not his fault, but it is happening. So that's what I
Yeah.
wondered. Or, maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they're just worried about the consequences. We saw how rough that on ramp was for him last year. It was really tough. He was effective, obviously he was scoring those goals, particularly on the power play, transformed the power play really. But I do worry if they think that the on ramp is just too shaky at the moment.
Yeah, with when it comes to Laine, I think this is pointing towards him finding a new home this season, which is unfortunate. You got 4 or 5 games out of him this year before he got hurt again. It's I mean, just cosmically unfair that this keeps happening to this guy. But I think the Canadiens might be well off to try to find another spot for him. They would, even if they ate half of that deal, they would be able to, take on a $4.5 million player in return. So there are some options there, but let's leave the Laine thought there. The other is that, Alex Newhook is going to come back at the other half, on the other side of the Olympic break. He's not going to play in Winnipeg, mostly because he's not even in Winnipeg. He is at home in Montreal, skating and shooting at new Canadiens goaltender, and this is true, David Savard, who is it was at the practice facility in Brassard in full goalie equipment so that Alex Newhook had a goalie to shoot at. This guy, I just want to I say this just to use this as an opportunity to say, I regret every mean thing I ever said about David Savard. This guy rules from top to bottom. He's the best.
He's such he's like a Santa Claus. He's basically Habs Santa.
The Canadiens have 3 mascots right now. They have Yuppie, they have Metal, and they have David Savard. Yes. that's the reality for this guy.
This is a man. I respect it. He's like, my body can't allow me to be a Montreal Canadien. I will continue to be a Montreal Canadien in whatever way I can. And if that includes strapping up the goalie pads, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm so glad they got to play that playoff series with him.
Yes.
I think that was really, he went out in the playoffs with his childhood team, with his hometown team. It's really cool. But it was just funny to see. But all this to be said, it means that they I feel fairly confident that the first game back from the Olympics, Alex Newhook will be there. It's a long time between now and then. He's going to be practicing with the team for a lot of that. I feel fairly confident that he ends up back in the lineup once everybody's back. The next question is, assuming Texier is also healthy, which we don't really know at this point, Joe Veleno is going to come out for Texier. Who comes out for Newhook?
That's a tough one.
Yeah. And I don't know that there's a good answer for it.
There isn't a good answer for it. And so for me, I was thinking, I'm like, what if they put someone on the wing? I don't know. Kapanen has to be a center though.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think Newhook will fit on that line.
Sure, but where? Can they play a 4th guy there? This is what I mean.
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate because they're gonna have to shoehorn Newhook back into this lineup. It's not like, Doc came back, right? And we all went, the first line would be perfect for him. Yes. And guess what? He's kind thriving. Of is. It's great. It works really well.
He's living his best life up there.
Yeah, there's no Alex Newhook silhouette in this lineup that we're just who can go there? We just don't. There's no reasonable place.
No,
where we're going. That's his spot when he comes back.
Right, but it instantly makes the Montreal Canadiens so much faster and so much better on the forecheck.
Totally. I think finding a way to play him on that third line with Gallagher and with Deneau, I think is the best path, because I just think he's going to be able to get in to the zone quickly when the rest of those guys just can't. Anderson can. He's got speed. He moves with size, really, really effectively. But I'm really curious to see what happens. In our second segment, we're going to talk about what we think Kent Hughes is up to. And I almost wonder if one of those things is finding a home for one of the forwards on this team currently, because what else are you going to do? So look, why don't we use that as a natural segue here? When we come back, we'll touch on that. What we think Kent Hughes is chattering about, what he's talking about, and what might be next for his Montreal Canadiens. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels a little bit bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. It's the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. Welcome back. Thank you for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You'll get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Canadiens, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You'll also get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Discord, Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. We're hanging out there, so come hang out. Go to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right. We alluded to it. We talked about the forwards, the logjam that's there. When Newhook comes back, what does this team look like? If he has to move a forward, if Kent Hughes has to move a forward, who is it? It's tough. It's a really difficult question.
It is, because I, as you were asking that question, heard 50% of our listeners saying Brendan Gallagher can just sit. And then the other 50% of our listeners saying, no way, that's crazy. Brendan Gallagher has earned his permanent spot in this lineup. I think maybe you don't do it right away. You don't move a forward right away, but you experiment what the team to see what the team looks like without Brendan Gallagher on it. You're not going to move Brendan Gallagher's contract. Forget that. But no. You have the option of sitting him once in a while, or maybe every other game, depending. You see what the team looks like without Josh Anderson on it. You see what the team looks like without Zach Wojcik on it. I'm sorry, he hasn't been given enough of an audition, but you alternate. You see what it looks like when you don't have a person, and you see how, if that person is an addition by subtraction. I think that's the equation you're looking for. What is the addition by subtraction? You play a few games, you figure it out.
Yeah.
Everybody has to sit at one point.
Right. And I just think like the Gallaghers and the Andersons are going to be so hard to move because those contracts, yes, this cap is going up, but those contracts are hefty. And yes, there's only a year left on both of them. So why would you attach an asset to those to get rid? Because that's what you would have to do. You would have to attach something of value to both of those guys to get them out, especially in the case of Anderson, who is an effective player, right? He kills penalties. He plays a really effective role on that third line. I don't really have a ton of appetite in moving Anderson unless somebody was paying you to do it. But I just don't think that is the kind of contract you can move that is attached to that kind of player without attaching something sweet to make that work for that team. Gallagher is almost the same deal, but I think Gallagher's value to the Canadiens is higher than it would be to any other team. Every team has an old dude that you try to win for, right? Yeah. We talked about David Savard. That was the Canadiens guy last year. When the Canadiens were in the playoffs and they went to the Cup final, it was Weber, it was Price. Those were the guys they were winning for. Not to say they're going to be in that position with Gallagher, but it's always nice when you get to the playoffs to have a guy like that. I also just transparently, I think the Gallagher stuff is so overblown.
I think he's fine.
He's not. I think people will always be he's not the player he once was. And I ask all of you, are you the same person you were 13 years ago? The answer is no. He has had to change his game. He's had to essentially recreate who he is. He's had to stay healthy. But like, I want you guys to watch Brendan Gallagher. And one of the things that he does constantly is he's always the last guy off. He's always the last guy off the ice. I'm not talking about practice from like a pregame skate, like, oh, he's superstitious. Yes. No. when the rest of his line mates are changing, he is the last forward on the ice, applying pressure on the forecheck to make sure everybody can get off. Like, this is a guy that, like, from that perspective, you watch that and you go, it's really tough to pull that guy out of the lineup. The things that he wants to do for this team. Let's think about what else Kent Hughes might be up to. One of the names that's been floating around for a little bit now is Nazem Kadri. We covered him in our now defunct 2C or not 2C series. Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts podcast mentioned that Kadri cannot block a trade to Montreal, which to me signified that somebody is talking about Kadri being traded to Montreal, and that no trade list has been reviewed and the Canadiens are not on it. So that, to me, that signifies the Canadiens are interested, right? And should they be in Nazem Kadri at this point?
I think that while they don't need him, he would add something to the lineup that the Canadiens do not have. I know that he is very undisciplined. I know he has a tendency to make some bad decisions once in a while, but he's still an incredibly good player. He's still a really good, effective center. He's somebody that Calgary had a hard time letting go of, right? There's definitely that aspect of it. And I think for me, it's like, if the Canadiens don't get Kadri, and let's not start with the do not wants just yet. Let's get there later. If the Canadiens don't get him, it's not going to change anything because they have a really effective lineup. They've got a great set of forwards. If they do get him, it just makes their center depth really not unbeatable, but pretty lethal.
Yeah. I mean, and it makes me wonder, like, where does Kapanen go? Like, because it would roll Suzuki, Kadri, Danault, Evans. That's really good. Like, that's really good. You've got essentially two shutdown centers and two offensively minded centers. And one of them is also a very strong defensive center in Nick Suzuki. So, like, that's really funny to me. But I wonder, like, when it comes to acquiring a guy like Kadri at this point, is it more valuable to the Canadiens to let Kapanen figure this out? And maybe one day he is, maybe as soon as next year, he is the bona fide 2C that they've been looking for. I think the toughest thing with Kapanen is he shoots right. And so does every other center on this team except for Danault.
Right. And that is a problem. But at the same time, like, that costs the Canadiens much less.
Yeah.
It's going to cost the Canadiens much less because how long are you going to have Kadri for? How many years are you going to have him for? Kapanen is cheap and he's going to be part of your core for a long time. Like, he can grow with this team. I'm not against that idea. I like it. For me, like, if you're going to get a center, you have to get one that is a sure thing that you're going to get value out of for many years. And I just don't know that Kadri is it. I'm not going to complain if the Montreal Canadiens get him and don't give up too much of their future for him. But at the same time, like, it's not a do not want at all. It's a do not need. And I know a lot of our listeners feel a certain way about Nazem Kadri, and I completely get it. The way that he plays rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but he's still an effective player. He is still a very talented, very effective player who has won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. And he did it in, like, the most, FU sort of way he possibly could. It was really cool to see him go, like, completely scorched earth on Toronto in the process. All right, leaving Kadri out of that, is there anything else that you think Kent Hughes is up to at the moment?
Yes, he's trying to figure out what to do about Arbor, Xhekaj, and Jaden Struble.
I think he's just looking for another defenseman. I think he's looking for an NHL third pairing defenseman and maybe trying to find a new home for Struble. I don't think they're willing to move Xhekaj at this point.
I don't think they should. I think they should continue with this experiment for a little bit longer.
Yeah, close game against Minnesota for the entirety of that game, and Xhekaj plays 5 minutes. Like, it's just not. It's not that is a non-option for the Canadiens.
Okay, but let me just ask you this one question because I was thinking about this since last night, since we started talking about it. Close game against Ottawa. How many minutes is Xhekaj playing?
Probably more. Probably like 11.
Yeah.
Like, but it's still.
I know. I know.
It's not great. But also, like, I just think, like, the Canadiens, I think they have something really good going with the new top four. I think that I love it. I love every part of it. It's really, really strong. It leaves Alex Carrier, who's a really good defenseman, in a really tough spot. And you should want to try to get the most out of these guys. And Carrier next to Xhekaj has not really worked. I really wonder, if Struble gets back into the lineup, if it's not against Winnipeg, maybe on the other side of the Olympics. But it's tough. It's tough watching that third pair and knowing like, hey, we might see very little of this player tonight. You can't really win games that way. I would almost rather dress another forward and just like spin them into the lineup and then just have Carrier jump into different pairs as guys come off. Yeah, at that point, like he played 551. Like you might as well try something else.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's leave that there. When we come back, we'll talk about guys in teams in the NHL who maybe aren't in the best of shape and maybe aren't led by the right guys that the Montreal Canadiens should be calling every single day to see if there's something they can pry away from those teams. And we'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. All right, welcome back. Look, we're going to talk about some teams and some general managers that the Montreal Canadiens should be calling every single day. I want to start with one that's sort of an honorable mention because he won't be the general manager for very much longer.
I thought you were going to say that.
It's Barry Trotz. I don't think in my lifetime I've seen a coach be so adamant that they were a general manager and then get the spot as general manager and do such a horrible job at it than Barry Trotz just did. I almost wonder if he goes back to coaching because this was awful.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't stepping aside, you should be calling him every day to see if he'll give you Ryan O'Reilly for a draft pick.
You should still be calling him every day. He can do some more damage in the time that he has left.
Yeah. Outside of Nashville, who is it that you're like, we have to be talking to this? If Kent Hughes isn't calling this guy every day, he's not doing his job. Who are some of those guys across the NHL?
I think he should be calling Vancouver.
For sure. Yeah.
I think he should absolutely be calling Vancouver. Chris Drury.
So let's talk about Chris Drury.
Okay.
Because I think there have been a lot of situations where the Canadiens and Rangers would have been like good trade partners. And I wonder if there's a little bit of we don't want to trade with Jeff Gordon.
I think there's definitely, like, the way that organization is run, there's got to be that.
Yeah, and that's not even a Chris Drury thing. I think that's a James Dolan thing.
Yeah, it would be from above.
Because I mean, think about it. They went above Gordon's head to make that put out that whole release when the whole Tom Wilson, Artemi Panarin nonsense was happening.
And then they fired him, and then he found success somewhere else. I think it's the success part. He didn't like fade off into the ether and like become a loser or whatever.
Yeah. He essentially did what he did in Boston. He took a team that was not very good and was interim GM for a few months and built the core that won a Stanley Cup. And then he went to New York and he built a core that should have won something and didn't. And now he's doing that in Montreal. Like, I think that plays a big part of this. Here for me, there's enough in recent memory to know that the Canadiens should be just calling Doug Armstrong and the St. Louis Blues every day. That's another guy who's on the way out.
Yeah.
He's going to cede that spot to guy I can't believe isn't still playing, Alexander Steen, which is just kind of crazy.
We're old.
Yeah, the time doesn't go backwards.
I'm gonna go crumble in a corner.
Yeah, we're just dust. It was like watching the World Juniors and cheering for Iginla, and it was like, this is really good for my heart, but also bad for my entire body. Like, this is not good.
Yeah. Also, I love how we were calling Brendan Gallagher old, and he's 33.
Yeah, but like, they're hard miles.
Yeah.
Like,
Brendan Gallagher at 33 is like any other player at like 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, he's like, it's like, you have a reasonable sedan that has 100,000 miles on it, and you have an 18-wheeler that has 100,000 miles on it. One of them is falling apart, and it's not the sedan. Like, it's not. It's just there's a lot of stuff that went into Brendan Gallagher getting to this point. But the Blues, you've already kind of fleeced them in a 1-to-1 hockey trade because I mean, as much as our complaints are there about Zachary Bolduc, I don't think any of the Canadiens fans who were like Logan Mailloux is the future of this defense have watched a single second of Logan Mailloux play defense for the St. Louis Blues. He is, and without exaggeration, one of the worst defensemen in the league. And they're doing him no favors keeping him in the National Hockey League. He could go down to the minors. They just signed him to a 1-year extension this year to just get him to the next year. But like, there's no, he's been horrific. He's terrible. And they just completely bailed on Alexander Texier in the middle of the season. One of the greatest boons for this Canadiens offense. You should be like, he should. I don't know what the St. Louis area code is, but Kent Hughes probably should. He should know what it is.
You should know Doug Armstrong's number by heart.
Yeah. And I know a lot of fans, like everyone really wants Robert Thomas. And I was listening to the Basu and Godin notebook, and they kind of pointed out something that I feel as well. Which is like, you already have a Robert Thomas. His name's Nick Suzuki. Do you really need another one?
No.
Like, it's just, that's a hat on a hat. It's too much. Who else are you calling every day if you are the general manager of this or any hockey team?
You were calling Toronto a lot.
Yeah, you are, huh?
You were calling Toronto a lot.
I'm going to give up the hope of William Nylander in a Montreal Canadiens uniform.
Why are you giving up this hope?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not giving it up until I have absolutely every reason to be like, it's not happening. Because I genuinely think that team is headed for they've gone over the cliff, but they are headed for this team looks very different next year.
Yeah.
I would be calling Brad Treliving all the time. They are apparently selling. Elliot Friedman said it on Saturday headlines.
Yeah. In fairness, Willie Nylander is one of maybe 3 untouchables on that team.
The problem is that they have untouchables. There shouldn't be any on that hockey team. There shouldn't be. When I hear about a lot of bad teams that have untouchables, you don't want to be better. That's what I'm hearing from you. In which case you keep calling them because they probably have some guys that are not untouchable that are probably pretty good and they don't value them.
Yeah.
Like keep calling those teams.
Just imagine Willie Nylander on this team.
You know what I would want from Toronto, and I think I mentioned this too, a perfect third pairing defenseman for this team, Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Ooh.
That would be really fun. I really like that option for the Canadiens. Again, like dealing with Toronto, I mean, how many trades have they made? The Plekanec one stands out.
Yeah, maybe not very many.
End of list as far as meaningful trades.
Yeah. They've claimed each other's players off of waivers quite a bit. That's
I mean, Sammy Blais might be headed back there in 24 hours time.
He's going to be so mad.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, then he'll come back to Montreal later and be like, I'm going to get him this time. I swear. Excuse my alarm. I would be calling Toronto as well. I think really you can't go wrong with any of the selling teams, especially the ones that didn't expect to be selling, because they are not equipped for what they're dealing with. They have not had I wouldn't call the Chicago Blackhawks. Because they're in their element right now. This is where they've lived for some time. Like, you're not going to get a good deal out of a team that is constantly in this position. As much as like Connor Murphy might make sense on defense, right? It's a veteran defenseman. You could plug him into the lower part of your lineup and be fine. I don't want to talk to those guys. You know, because like he's going to fleece you.
Yes.
Maybe you call the Florida Panthers because for some reason they're trying to buy, and I don't understand why they're not just taking this as like a gap year.
Yeah,
and we'll be back next year. They're trying to get Panarin for some reason, which is crazy. Maybe you call. I think the point of this segment is you should be calling every general manager who's out of his mind, and make it worse for them. You know, there's the saying, when you're in trouble, your other general managers don't throw you life vests; they throw you anchors. Ken Hughes better be ready to start throwing some anchors. I want to see him start to just completely take advantage of some guys that are in some unfortunate positions.
There's a team that's not a seller. It's actually very good. It's a buyer, but their GM is a moron. And I think that Kent Hughes should start calling Billy Guerin. He's going to be busy at the Olympics.
Yeah, I love that. I think he's watching just the guys that he left off the roster just cook, and he's recognizing how cooked he is.
Well, the thing is, if the Team USA doesn't make it to the medal round, That's when you start calling him and be like, hey,
Yeah.
let me tell you a
He's
thing or two about talent.
Yeah, he's gonna come home so mad because everyone was right the whole
Except for
time,
him. Yeah.
and he's going to come home so mad and do something stupid. I love that. I love
Yes.
that thought a lot.
We're getting too excited about this. Like when you get to our Olympic preview, you'll know that we do actually have a lot more respect for Team USA than we are putting on right
Yeah.
now. But I think you have to agree that Billy Guerin is not the best judge of pure talent in the NHL.
No, not at all. All right, let's leave that there. Let's hit our trivia and head out of here. Reminder: this month's trivia is a Black History Month themed, so we'll continue with that trend. Yesterday's question was, who was the first Black player to play for the Montreal Canadiens? The hint was he was a one night only. He played one playoff game for the Montreal Canadiens. Who was this player? Laura Saba.
Was it Stephen Fletcher?
It was Stephen Fletcher. One playoff game in 1988. He had a fighting major in it, and it was the only night he wore the Canadian sweater. Marc Couturier, Jeff Harpel, Garrett S., and Valkyrie NS. I think that's a 4-peat for Valkyrie. Way to go. All have that one correct, so thank you for playing. All right, today's question. Before becoming the first Black woman inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, this pioneer was leading the Seneca Scouts to a softball championship. So essentially, who was the first Black woman inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video. Let us know any way you know how, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of the show. And that is going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day, for subscribing and following us wherever you get your podcast. And hey, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit the bell. It'll notify you every time we've posted a video. So that way, it's another way that you can be listening to us every single day. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Canadiens ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. You can find the show everywhere we're posting things. Locked On Canadiens on Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok primarily. LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com is the best way to get in contact with us, especially if you want to send in your mailbag questions. We do a mailbag every Friday, and we love to get those questions. We love to hear from you guys, so keep sending things in. As Laura noted, when we go to the Olympics, we're still here every day. In fact, I'm taking some time off my day job to wake up and watch these hockey games, so I will be able to talk about the Olympics in a way that I haven't been able to do in my lifetime. So very excited to be able to do that. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow after the last Canadiens game for the next 3 weeks. See you then.